Welcome to the DH Beat, where Hillary and Sonia will give monthly tips to help you thrive in both your personal and professional lives.
To do a deeper dive into these concepts, check out our membership and consulting pages at thedheffect.com. So, Hillary, we've been getting a lot of questions about what is the DH effect, the decided heart effect. And for us, it is having the courage to live with a decided heart. And you practice decision making and action taking daily that is in alignment with who you are at your very best. And as you model the way, the effect is that you inspire and give permission for others to do the same. That's pretty big. I would love to go a little bit more simple. Even you're like, whoa, yes. Can we get a little bit more simple and just saying, what is a decided heart?
A decided heart is just at the very core when all of a sudden we're like, you know what? I need to be committed to this thing that is in front of me. It's really easy to have all of these things in life happening and you sort of allow life to take hold and just guide you where it will, right? And when you have that moment where you say, actually, this is who I am, I'm going to articulate it, I'm going to commit to it, I'm going to be loyal to it, and I'm going to challenge myself to live with the integrity of it. And it's really hard and it's really scary because when we actually say, this is the way it is, this is what I'm doing, this is who I am, this is how I'm moving forward, we have to get rid of the excuses and we have to stay focused and we have to stay on track. There's a lot of level of sacredness and respect that can be a little overwhelming when we finally decide to declare, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, this is how I live my life. And that is what having a decided heart is all about.
You know that what reminded me is our interview with Gabe Ortiz when he talked about the dots. He was sitting on a bench in New York and he was recalling all the dots, the moments in his life where he wasn't as aligned. And then he was faced with this one dot a moment again. And he made this really intentional decision of aligning, questioning how does he want to show up. And I think that's so powerful. It's not just this concept of, oh, you just live with a decided heart. You decide that every moment.
Every decision, every single, I love that you said that because that is so true. It is, and you have to start there. You can't pull it out of the air to know what it is. You really do have to put the work in to defining what and how you want to show up for yourself, for your family, for work. And we oftentimes, we always start with individual work when we're working with people or organizations. And it's so funny, Sonia, because we'll get people and they'll be like, oh, how do I show up? Do you want to know how I show up at work or how I show up at home?
Right.
And what do we always say? Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Both. Because if you're half a person here and half a person here,
Mm-hmm.
there's no foundational integrity. A decided heart is, this is who I am, and I'm going to have the courage to live this person at work, in the community, at home. It might look slightly different, but you're not changing who you are, right?
Yes.
Oh,
Well, I think also what's so powerful is that there's a lot of thinking about, you know what, I just want this outcome. I want this outcome in this relationship. How do I get them to do this? How do I get them to believe this? I don't have to do the individual work. I just want our relationship to be better. And that is the work. It's really like, yes, that relationship does get better and stronger and more meaningful once you do the work for self. Like, and I just have to say, just as a testimony for myself, I have lived that life of, oh, I don't know how I show up. It just feels right. It's this aloof idea of what it feels like, but I could never really articulate exactly what are for our work, it's the virtues.
mhm.
When I was able to then really be clear, wait, these are my superpowers. I can actually name them.
Mm,
I can actually see the action that supports each of those things.
mhm.
I now have the language, and I just felt so much more powerful, honestly, to tell you the truth. Like it just became so dang clear. And then when I started to engage with the relationships I already had, it was different. Connection was different.
It is. And the connection is powerful, and it becomes, connection is so important. And I think our being able to know who we are, declare who it is, our decided heart is like a compass.
Mm.
And so, when you're trying to figure out the direction that you're going, you have to go back to that compass and follow it and listen to it, right? And our decided heart is all about that. It is that compass that says, if integrity is important to you, and these are your two choices, which one helps you to live with integrity? Well, now I know what I'm doing. If I say love is important to me and these two choices are here, which one allows me to live in my most loving place? And
Mhm.
now we know. We talk about this a lot. We have a decided heart with the decided heart, which every time we've talked about our business, we've told people and our mentors and so on, the most important asset, the most important part of our work is actually our relationship. And so knowing that, declaring it, that is the heart of our business, our decided heart. That means anything that comes at us, all the decisions we make have to run through that filter first.
Mhm. Absolutely. What I love too is the messaging. I'm working with some children right now in terms of, and the age doesn't matter, folks. Just FYI,
Yeah,
this is
right.
a human being thing. Since we are born, right, we're born with these incredible gifts. But and I think about work relationships. I'm just so frustrated. I'm so disappointed. Things are not working out. Well, how do you convert that, that as opportunities to say, well, how do virtues fit here? How can you show up with compassion when things are frustrated? Is there room for creativity when there's disappointment? And so when we can anchor the recovery to these gifts, the gifts in ourselves and how we see one another,
Mhm.
then all of a sudden that frustration, disappointment, conflict, all of the hard things become, and we've talked about this, creative problem solving.
Yes.
And it's the most beautiful thing in terms of the innovation that comes out of that.
Yes. Yeah, it's really interesting because one of the companies that we're working with, we've been talking a lot about, well, it's end of year. So, how has this shown up for you? How has having a decided heart and using language that looks for the best in others and yourself and the gifts, that feels very soft, right? It really is a superpower. It's like, how has that changed things for you? And they all have said, the connection I feel, even if I look across functions in a company and I'm looking at something over here where we normally are arguing, instead of seeing them as someone that's my adversary, I'm now looking for, what do we have in common? What are they really trying to say? Where are their gifts? And it transforms things in a way that brings them together
Mhm.
and then allows them to move forward. And there's brain science behind that. I'm reading a book right now that's called The Power of Us. And it is so powerful, the research that backs up when you have those connections, when you have those moments where you say, I see you, Sonia. Let me prove to you that I see you by telling you what I see in you. Not what you're doing, but who you are. And when I have that connection with you, those moments of connection allow, when they do brain scans, us to literally be on the same brain wavelength.
That's
And
beautiful.
so the more you're doing those connections, the more on the same wavelength. Now, that doesn't mean you have the same thoughts and that you're being, all of that, but it means you start to feel the unity and the social identity of the moving forward and where your goal is. And when that happens, that connection allows for decision making, collaboration, and learning to take place in a faster time with less effort and with more, quite frankly, cost effective to businesses and all, but really it gets to being human centered.
For sure. I mean, the power of that, and that's where the effect part, the DH effect, and we hear that, oh, the feedback might be like, oh my gosh, there's this such synergy that we're having right now. That's that brain wavelength, right? Like, oh, we're really coming up and we're on the same page. I think what's so beautiful about that is that in that unity of seeing one another, there's so much joy in your work. Can you imagine? And I hope we all experience when people come into work so proud to be there.
Mhm.
We have a company that have such powerful core values.
Mhm.
um, for them to walk through the door and feel those values every time and know that it exists and that they're proud to be part of that place. Think about the dedication and commitment to the work. And of course, you're going to get to the productivity. Of course, you're going to get to the innovation, and of course, the bottom line and beyond. Um, I would love in terms of the effect part, which is like modeling the way. I like to describe it as the ripple effect. Because we imagine you and I, our vision is yes, it's amazing when we have individuals living with a decided heart. But when we drop that pebble and the expansion takes place, and we now have families living with a decided heart, schools, organizations, companies, societies, that's
Mhm.
our vision.
Well, it really is. And that is, I mean, we never do this in a vacuum. We always ask for feedback. And I think that has been such a powerful thing to see. This is never, when we ask people for how has this impacted you, to live with a decided heart, to learn the curriculum that it is that we have and really curate and customize for companies. How has this impacted you? And you'll expect to hear things like, well, the team is working together, we're making decisions faster. All of those things are happening. And then we hear things like, and I'm really talking to my children in a different way.
Yeah.
My husband and I, or my wife and I, are really seeing each other in different ways, or my spouse. I'm feeling brave enough to go to my manager and have conversations. So it's funny, and especially because we tend to work a lot in biotech, not exclusively, but that seems to be an area that we've been in a lot.
Mm.
And it seems like, well, it's all science, 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 science. And traditionally, everything that we do is thought of as soft skills. And the funny thing is, soft skills, it was called that from the military. The military back in the 60s called it soft skills because the hard skills were shooting and things like that, right? But these soft skills are the superpowers of leaders. These are the things that help you bring out the best in your people, that fuel the people around you, that fuel your own heart, that bring on the happiness, that allow retention and people to stay, to help everybody march forward and in a way where they identify and want to be a part with pride, as you said, of the organization. And so it really is making the time in this space. That's why I'm so glad that we do what we do. I'm glad that we do it together. I'm so happy that we're doing it together because it can seem daunting when you're in a world that wants to say, oh, that's just mushy stuff. And you're like, no, no, no. This is the hard stuff.
Yes.
This is the hard stuff. And this is what brings things to really, truly excellence.
I just what's coming to mind is that testimony we've worked with a company, biotech, and we did a listening tour with employees, and then we worked with leadership where we did a LPI, a 360 assessment, leadership practice inventory. And one of the leaders that I worked with, he came in and said, I've done plenty of these. I've done like 30 of these. Like, just really wasn't like, just come on, can we get it over with? But he didn't know that it was going to be a decided heart curriculum to this LPI assessment. And as we together, because companioning is such a powerful tool that is in previous episodes on what that is, but really diving deep and saying, tell me more about how you're modeling the way. It's so interesting that how your team sees you differently. What's your thoughts? And really having him be a fascinated anthropologist, as you like to say, and being curious and say, and I just remember him saying, I never realized that. I
Mm.
never thought about it that way. I thought that if I was humble and that I'm focusing on the relationship and what they need, that was enough. And it was the most profound conversation. And the ripple effect continues. We still hear it.
Mhm.
He's still thinking about these thoughts about how he can see himself truly and articulate. And we continue to do the work together. But it's one of those things to, I guess what we're asking with this episode, as we're defining what is the DH effect, just take a pause for a second
Mhm.
and really truly explore how you are showing up. Does it feel right? Are your actions supporting that? Is your decision making supporting that? How are your people seeing you and how are you seeing your people?
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
powerful.
No, I think that's so powerful. So that is, I mean, truly, really, in the end, living with a decided heart and the work that we do boils down to having the courage to know who you are, to be vulnerable, to be authentic, to allow yourself to connect with others for the common good.
Yeah, for sure.
It's that simple.
Well, everyone, if you are interested in learning a little bit more, first, we would love for you to subscribe to our newsletter at thedheffect.com. You'll be informed of all our upcoming events. We have our weekly energy infusers retreats. We also do discovery calls. So if you want to learn more about how we can work with your organization, with your leaders, with your employees, or you just want to do some personal work, give us a call and we can really create this plan for sustainable action steps in creating the decided heart effect in your life.
Yes, absolutely. And our next episode, Sonia, is going to be our 100th episode. So until then, I know, may you all have the courage to live with a decided heart.
Thanks for taking a beat with us.
Feel free to connect with us at thedheffect.com and schedule your complimentary discovery call to help you and your business thrive.
To ensure that you don't miss one amazing episode on the DH Effect and capture meaningful conversations with those living with a decided heart, why don't you go over and click that subscribe button on our YouTube channel? And for those audio listeners out there who love podcasts, why don't you pick your favorite podcast platforms like this one on Spotify? Go ahead and find that follow button, click on it, and never miss an episode.